and welcome to Let's Talk with NP Student, where we're keeping you updated with every aspect of your life in and out of school. Today, we are zeroing on a topic that is exclusively impacting the everyone, including the healthcare professionals, and that's financial well-being. Joining us for this topic is Bruce Breedlove. He's a registered nurse and a financial expert. Welcome, Bruce.
Hey, Patrice. So good to be here.
It is good to have you. So let's get started. Can you tell us a little bit about how your unique background as a registered nurse segue into you being a financial expert?
Yeah, so quickly I'll go through this. So unfortunately, I grew up to parents who struggled with drug and alcohol addiction. So I grew up really fast at a really young age, and I ended up moving out when I was 17 years old, 17 and a half, still in high school. I had $600 in my bank account and a broken down car. I remember the first night I spent in my apartment, looking at the ceiling, thinking like, okay, I can go one of two directions here. I can either continue to have the same outcome in my life that I grew up with, or I can be successful. And I chose to be successful, but that was a large burden because I understood that I was going to have to learn a lot of things very quickly. So I chose to go into nursing because I wanted to choose a career that had mass appeal, it had marketplace value, and I wouldn't be geographically tied to one place. I grew up in Ohio, did not want to stay in Ohio, moved to Jacksonville, Florida. So fast forward, got out of school. I remember my first check as a nurse was $1,200. And I mean, that was so much money to me at the time that it blew my mind. So anyway, what I discovered in my early 20s is that I still carried along with me this scarcity mindset that I had in my life that I was sort of forced to have just to survive. So I went through my early 20s sort of hoarding money and having still a negative relationship with money because I was just sort of scraping it all together, and I was very frugal. In response to that, I didn't really enjoy things like I wanted to. I wasn't living my best life. Fast forward to my late 20s, I started getting out of that scarcity mindset, and I met some people here in Jacksonville, Florida, in the real estate industry, and who were sort of doing bigger things than me. And I started letting go of that scarcity mindset and adopting more of an abundance mindset. All the while during this time, I was learning so much about personal finance, investing, et cetera. And, I was working in the hospital and I was looking around at the nurses that were around me, and I was thinking like, this knowledge that I have, the people around me don't have it. And so I had seen nurses who had been on the floor for 15, 20, 30 years and really didn't have much to show for it. And so I became super passionate about really helping them learn how to maximize their personal finances. And then I started coaching them. Fast forward to now, opened up a personal finance coaching company called Align Money Mastery. And the mission there is to help people build wealth and live life on their own terms. Oh, I can't hear you, Patrice.
I realized that I was still on mute. One of the things that I admire most about you is just your dedication. I've been able to witness your growth with this financial expertise over the years, but this is the first time that I've heard your story. So just highly impressed. And do you find it interesting or common, I should say, for many individuals who set themselves up like with you have some type of unique story that really triggered them to come into their strength?
Yeah, so I do the same job as them. I made the same money as them. I didn't make six figures until like a year and a half, 2 years ago. So I started with $600 when I was 17 and have a net worth of about $1.8 million now. And I'm doing the same job, working alongside these people who, again, have been nurses for 15, 20, 30 years and who don't really much to show for it. And I feel for them because I have this knowledge that can get them there. And so when I just genuinely share my story and my trajectory, they relate to it because I'm doing the same job as them. I'm taking care of the same patients. I'm working at the same hospital right alongside them.
And there's so much financial commitment that's out there. How is it that I've always wondered, because every nurse has a different story, how do they get themselves in that situation?
So, unfortunately, what I find in coaching people is that people emotionally spend without intention. So, and their lifestyle increases with increase in income. So people sort of spend emotionally and enjoy life, and as they should. However, don't ever really have a plan to execute because of lack of knowledge, right? We've talked before off camera, offline, many times that this stuff isn't taught, right? And so I made the decision at 17 that I realized, I looked around me and I realized the world runs on money. So I needed, a part of being successful was that I needed to learn how money worked. So I just started learning everything I possibly could about how the market works, how to invest, etc. And so it's really lack of intention and lack of knowledge that drives this situation that they're in. And when people unfortunately come to me, it's really at this point of crisis where they either realize like, hey, I've been working for my whole life, and I can sort of see the future, but I don't have any money, and they are feeling the crunch of inflation and interest rates like we are right now, or student debt, and they hit this crisis point where then they look for information, and I can definitely help you there, but I would rather get you earlier in the process where you're not at that crisis point. But again, this stuff isn't taught, so it's a big struggle for people to sort of get their arms around this when it's not prioritized in our society.
Exactly. And that's why we have you on the show today, is because it's not, people do not try to get help until they're in crisis
Yeah.
mode. How can we intervene and introduce it where you're just set up to work towards having eventually an exit strategy? So this is really great. And of course, I want to jump right into the top three money moves right away. But before we do that, I noticed that during the pandemic, many nurses were able to get job opportunities where they were able to make a large amount of money doing traveling. And I forgot can't think of the name right now, or what it was called. What do you feel? How do you feel they could have gone about like saving that money or utilizing that money?
Yeah. Again, people's lifestyle increases when their income increases. It's a sort of I deserve it mentality. And
Okay.
the really not sexy thing to talk about is paying off debt and putting money in a high yield savings to build your emergency fund. So in the event that those travel contracts don't come through, you have the money to live, or you get hurt or something in your family happens. The really not sexy stuff that we don't talk about is not something that, again, we know about. And so what I found is that people's lifestyle increased when they started making that extra money from those very lucrative 5+ K a week travel contracts. And so what people found themselves in the same position they sort of started in when they went to find the source of that extra money. So a lot of my colleagues at the time, because I was a bedside nurse until the end of 2020, and now moved from bedside nursing to medical device sales, now pharmaceutical sales. And what I found is that my colleagues were coming back to the hospital that I worked at after doing a couple of travel contracts, and they were the same exact spot they were before. They just, again, lack of knowledge led to them making more money and spending it in a way that made them feel good instead of putting it towards things that actually moved the needle in their lives.
And that's very important. So, what they don't even realize is that when they continue in that same situation, they're setting themselves up for when they enter in what's typically known as the retirement age. That if they have that same type of lifestyle and they're not putting this in investing or saving, they're setting themselves up for having to work until they die,
Mm-hmm.
which is the simplest way for me to put it. And so that's why it's so important to have this. And it's actually better to have this from the time we're in elementary school, but that's a whole nother conversation
Yeah.
to prepare, because it's best to build on that actual knowledge. But let's segue back to the nurse practitioner arena, even though this information is vital for all nurses.
It
So
is.
going back to nurse practititioner school, it's educational and financial commitment. And with that being said, there's a lot of prep that has to be involved with the finances and the family. What are some of the money moves, the top three money moves that these individuals can do in MP school?
Yeah, we're getting to the main event here. I love it. So, if I was someone going into NP school, the first thing I would do is absolutely make a budget. You have to fully assess where every single dollar is going and just do an assessment. Okay, where is my money going? Okay, and then how much do I need to spend to live? Okay, so making a budget is really a system around which you make decisions around money. consistently over time. Okay. So where I would start is to go on mint.com, link all your accounts. And what that's going to do is it's going to import the last 90 days of transactions. And you're going to see exactly where every dollar has gone. Okay. So once you do that, you can easily identify wasted spending, forgotten about subscriptions that we're all guilty of. And, your most important tool is going to be the control around your money that you will gain from this. So number one, and this, by the way, this is an NP podcast, NP education, but everybody should be doing this. If you're listening to this and you don't have a budget, you don't know where every single dollar goes, that's where to start. So number two, when you're going into NP school, it takes up a lot of time, and you may not be able to work as much as you were able to before. So, now that we've budgeted, we figure out how much money we need to live month to month. When our income may go down during NP school, we need to have an emergency fund. So my suggestion would be, before you even think about going to NP school, you should have a 6-month emergency fund, and that's of your expenses, not of your income. So if you've done step one successfully and you've discovered how much money you spend in a month or need to spend in a month to live, you multiply that by 6 and you need to save up that much money. Here's what that's going to do. That's going to allow you to sleep better at night. Your food's going to taste better. Your relationships are going to be better. You're going to have this amount of relaxation and lack of stress in your life that you'll be able to focus on school more better and be more clear-headed when you are going through your classes, etc. And then, God forbid something happens during school, right? Life happens. You don't have to put NP school on hold if an emergency happens, as they often do during this time. Okay. So number three, you should absolutely make sure that the school you're going to has the highest return on investment. So what does that mean? What is return on investment? Return on investment is every dollar that I put into this thing, how much am I getting out? Okay. And hopefully that should be a positive calculation. But, if you're someone who's looking at NP school and you're going in order to advance your career and to make more money, it should not be cost prohibitive to do so. There are many NP schools that are very expensive, and you're going to end up getting the same job on the other side that the person who went to a state school or a cheaper school or online school got also. So I would run the numbers and make sure that I'm getting the highest return on investment possible for the school that I'm choosing. And that sort of goes into a topic that hopefully we're going to get to later, which is student debt. And that'll decrease the amount of money not only that you have to pay, but hopefully that you have to borrow to get through school.
One of the things that you mentioned, because we've actually highlighted this story before on NP Student, is the return on investment. And I often encourage students that should be a part of their research before they even apply to NP school, to look to see how much the school costs. Now, with what I'm going to say next, I do not want anyone to think that I'm against the private schools that cost a lot of money. But we also have to understand that at the end of the day, regardless if you graduate from a state university or that private university, when it comes to obtaining that RN degree or an NP degree, that you're still going to get that degree. So I'm trying to figure, I've always tried to wrap around my head around, why do people feel like they have to spend so much for their education? Because things have changed a lot. You and I both know the type of nurse that you are is really how your intentionality. Same thing with money.
Mm-hmm.
So again, what causes people to feel like because they spend more money, they're going to get a better education?
I sort of referenced this earlier, but people spend money based on emotion and feeling,
Okay.
not on intention, right? And we're going to keep coming back to that intentionality word. That's one of my favorite words. People that are around me, I say it all the time. I apologize. However, people choose these schools and people make money decisions based on emotion, not intention. And I think it's a failure at the beginning, in my opinion. Now, it gets down to the reason, like, why are we going back to school? Okay. I'm going back to school to get an advanced degree to help my patients at a higher level. Okay. That is completely independent of, I like this school for this reason, right? It should accomplish that same goal, but you really need to analyze again. It's a simple calculation that you can do. And you can answer this. Going from an average of about $75,000 to $80,000 as a bedside nurse, what is the average starting salary for an NP? Patrice? Do you know
I
that?
believe, according to the U.S. Bureau of Statistics, Labor and Statistics, it should be between 120 and 130,000 per year, depending on which region you're in. Because in California, the average
Yeah.
will be a little higher.
Sure, sure. So let's just say for this conversation, it's 130 because you're at an awesome hospital and you got a great job, and you used to make 80. So we have a $50,000 increase in salary from school, right? So I did some research also. Average grad school debt is $70,000 plus, but that's just grad school in general. That's not NPs. Average NP student debt is $184,000, and that's as of September 2022. Okay, so talk about return on investment. Okay, you're getting a job, you're going to school to get an advanced degree to get a job that pays you $50,000 more, okay, a year, right? So if you're spending that much money, $184,000, not including interest, on your education, that's 3 years. That if you spend every extra dollar that you make on paying for your student debt after you get out, you still haven't even paid for it. So
Mhm.
the return on investment conversation and calculation is the most important thing, because you have great intentions to go back to school and to get this advanced degree, but you could absolutely financially handicap yourself for the next 10 to 20 years, as I've seen people do in my career. So this is a huge conversation, and like you said, not to talk bad about any of the specific schools, but I went to the University of Akron. I had a full scholarship because I worked my butt off in school. I wrote a ton of essays in my senior year and after my senior year of high school to get grants, and there's money out there to be had. Again, I graduated school with zero debt, so it can be done. And I was big into music when I was in school. I was in band from fifth grade on. I loved music. I conducted and it played in every band possible. And I got a scholarship to the Ohio State University. I wanted to be in their marching band, right? I would have not been able to get out of to go to Ohio State and get a nursing degree. That, by the way, I would have got the same job that I got with a University of Akron nursing degree, eh, to pursue music. So my suggestion would be get rid of all the noise, focus on what's important, which is getting an advanced degree to help patients at a higher level, and do it as cheap as possible so you can get the same, achieve the same end result. That would be my suggestion.
I agree with that. Sometimes when I look back, you know how they say, if I only knew then what I know now, because that's what I ask most
Yeah.
of my guests, I would have approached things a little bit differently. And so I understand that you and your co-founder have helped so many nurses kind of look back and said, if I only knew then, I would have done this better. Can you share a little bit about some of those success stories for those that you have
Mhm.
helped?
Yeah, so not specific. I mean, I did a lot of my guinea pig practice coaching on my fellow nurses on all the floors that I worked on. So shout out to all of you guys. Thank you. And I mean, a nurse, she freely shares the story. A nurse named Roz. She had worked her entire life as a nurse at a hospital down here in Jacksonville, and she, unfortunately, her husband got sick and has since passed away. Roz, I would think about you all the time, and she hit that crisis point that she wanted to sort of be able to spend more time with her husband and wanted to see clearly how she could retire, but she hit that crisis mode where she's like, I only have, there's no way I can retire with what I have. So a few years out from when she wanted to retire, I did a complete overhaul with her, and luckily she was able to retire, spend some time with her husband before he ultimately passed away. Again, Roz, I think about you all the time. Like that right there, what is more important than that? So, I mean, the people that I and we have worked with, have bought houses because they worked with us, have funded their kids' college education, have paid off. We had one student that literally sold his truck and went to pay off his other car in one day, paid off 30 grand in debt in one day, and freed up $900 a month of payments that they were paying towards cars. So, and to think the downstream effect of that, like to have an extra $900 a month that's not going toward an asset that goes down in value. And these are just a couple I could go on. If you go to the website, there's some testimonials and some actual results of the needle, how to which the extent to which the needle has been moved in these people's lives.
And by the website that Bruce is referring to is the Align Money Mastery. And this is the QR code for you all to take the time to visit. He has quite a bit of resources that could help you all with navigating money management, what we would like to call wealth management instead. Um,
Wealth management is tough because there's wealth managers out there, and I
yeah,
have no
that is
license for
true.
that. So what I say is it's like hiring a personal trainer for your
I
finances.
like it. I like that better.
Yeah.
It's more intentional because it's really,
Yes, it
yes,
is.
it really is. And I always feel like it's how you approach everything. If you're not approaching it as in I have to get wealthy, I have to get wealthy, you have to get wealthy. At the end of the day, you really want financial freedom. When you set yourself up to be free, you life just comes about a little bit differently. And when I say that for the NP students, it's more so you're able to focus on your studies and perform better in your courses and deliver better care when you do not have that financial stress or cloud weighing over your head. But Bruce,
Mhm.
can you tell us a little bit about the services that you provide with
Yeah.
Align Money Mastery? Because we're coming towards the end of our show and we want to make sure that we highlight what you do.
Yeah, and just I want to touch on this before I go into this. So the need is there. I'm sure many of you who are watching are anxiously awaiting your first student debt payment to be due at the beginning of either next month or
Exactly.
October. And so, just to establish the need, right? 60 to 75% of people can't put their hand on $1,000 for an emergency. Um, 55 to 60% of people who graduated from college have student debt. The country burden for the U.S. is $1.77 trillion of student debt, and again, like I said, the average NP student is going to have $180,000 in debt when they graduate school, which is a payment once you get out of $1,000 to $1,500 a month, which that pretty much eats up any additional money you're going to make going from bedside nursing to becoming an NP. So anyway, just wanted to establish the need there before I talk about the solution, which is I believe is this. So really, again, through 8+ years of coaching individuals, I've broken down what you need to know from start to finish into 6 classes. Okay, and they from start to finish, from budgeting to learning how to invest, learning how to goal set, and aligning your dollars with what your goals are, and then defining financial independence. What is financial independence? Teaching. So it's really 3 things. It's knowledge, it's systems, which is budgeting, and then it's intentionality. So understanding how to communicate around money is the intentional piece, right? Telling your money what to do rather than wondering where it went. That's how normal people act, is I wonder where my money went instead of telling you what to do. So it's systems, it's knowledge, and it's intentionality. The systems are using Vanguard as a high yield savings and getting the highest yield possible on your emergency fund money. So that money that you socked away for a rainy day or while you're in NP school is right now making 5.25%. You can't beat that for high yield savings, right? Like give you all the tools that you need to be successful in systems with budgeting, give you the knowledge that you need to make decisions around money and to goal set, and then the intentionality that's supported by the accountability in the class. So 2 entries here. There's a full 3-month mastery course that literally you can take, and it's 5 hours a month of commitment. So your NP students could take it and it would not interfere with their studies. I know 3 months is a long time, but you wouldn't hire a personal trainer and expect to get buff in one Saturday. Wouldn't make sense. Or tackling people's relationship with money, which that they've had their entire life, which by the way is formed before the age of 6 or 7. So I'm getting into some deep topics here, and we'll talk about it next time. However, 3-month mastery class covers all 6 classes. It covers 2 one-on-one accountability meetings that are an hour long during the month, and then from start to finish, you'll have a complete understanding of when you can become financially independent, how to become financially independent, and have complete control over your money, and how to communicate around it if you have a significant other. The other entry is there's an online only course that has all the same knowledge, but not the accountability. So if you're someone listening that's like, I don't have the time to have all these one-on-one meetings, there's an online version that is a third of the cost that gives you the same content, just without the one-on-one accountability. And both of those can be found on the website.
And so we'll show the QR code for that website again. So visit Align Money Mastery. When you see it, Money Mastery is actually one word, you guys. So something that I just caught. So definitely check it out. Bruce is very knowledgeable. He's helped thousands of people, and it would love to hear you guys' story one day. So now we come towards the part of the show where we're getting ready to go. I just wanted to know if there's anything else that you would like to share with those who are tuning in today, because we do have you on the schedule to come back again.
Let's now come back as many times as your viewers and you want me to. So yeah, just a couple things. If you go to the website, there's two things that you can get for free. Number one, giving the investing class away for free. Really want you to get an idea of a taste of the knowledge, right? And literally, I mean free. All you have to do is go down, click it, put your information in, and it'll get sent to you. And it's investing 101. Everything you need to know about how to invest, why to invest, and demystifying and defining some big terms that get thrown around on shows like MSNBC and the stock market, all that. And then the second thing is offering free 30-minute financial audits, which, of course, you may not know what that means, but it really, it's a 30-minute meeting where you can come in and we can give you a total start to finish idea of where you are and give you clarity on your current financial situation and then how we can help. So again, both available on the website. We would love everyone who's listening to take advantage of that.
Yeah, an audit is a good way of that giving you that overview just to see exactly where you are, so you know the next step to move forward.
Yep.
So one of the things that I ask all my guests, of course, is if I only knew then what I know now. And I had briefly mentioned it earlier. Bruce, if you only knew then what you know now, what would you do?
Yeah, as a 21-year-old entering the workforce as a nurse, if I knew now if I knew then what I know now is I would run to get away from that scarcity mindset that I was steeped in as a result of my childhood and the way I had to grow up, and that really did take away a lot of. And this is sort of a financial conversation, but it was really the way I related to my world, and I looked at everything as a scarcity, like I need to really white knuckle everything, and it wasn't and it took me 8-9 years to get out of that, right? So if I could look at the world differently and hurry to the understanding to which my childhood was still affecting me, right? I would really do myself a favor. It would have saved a lot of times where I didn't enjoy life or relate to others the way I should have or could have. And I think if you're listening to this and you're sort of mired in like feeling like the victim for whatever reason, I want to acknowledge the fact that you should absolutely think about what has happened to you and what has led you to this point. And I want you to sit with that and think about it. And you have the full right to empathize with yourself and your situation. However, if you wake up tomorrow and allow those circumstances to be the cause of you not succeeding, you're only harming yourself, and you're giving that stuff way too much credit. So if you need a sign, or if you need someone to say like, hey, let's move on, now's the time.
I agree. Now is the time indeed. At the end of the day, it is about that mentality, the mindset. Bruce, once again, it's always a joy just having a conversation with you. It's always a joy on camera or off camera. I learned so much and I'm just so impressed on like how much knowledge you have in such a like now I sound like an older person like, "Oh my gosh, his knowledge exceeds his years." But it's so impressive, and the reason why I wanted you here because I felt like your insights are just invaluable. And for those who are tuning in, this is Bruce Breedlove, someone who I admire for quite some time. He is a registered
Oh,
nurse
thank you.
as well as a renowned financial expert. Please follow him on LinkedIn and also visit Align Money Mastery today. Do not put it off. That's the first step of making that change. And also, do not forget to follow us for those who are enjoying some of the information that we share here at MP Student. Follow us at MP Student on LinkedIn and at MP Student Mag on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you once again for tuning in. I am Dr. Patrice Little, and we will see you next time.